Hello and welcome to Mile High Reefers. I'm Scott Anderson. This is my rodder. So Steve Rodder hit me up and asked me if I wanted to test out the rodder tube. And of course I did. I wanted to try out a new piece of equipment that another hobbyist put out there because it just looked so cool. Now, the rodder tube is a replacement for your sock filtration. Basically, it hooks up to where your sock would normally go, and then water goes through filter media inside, and then comes out the bottom. And then to change it out, all you do is just take it off, go clean it out in your sink. So way better than socks from what I can tell. Now, of course, me being me, instead of using it for what it was intended for, I immediately talked to Steve about modding this thing to use it as a vacuum, because that was the need that I had at the time. And you know what? It's working great. So come check this out. My rodder tube modded as a vacuum. It's super cool. So here's my rodder tube. And first question you're probably asking is, what is a rodder tube? And this is actually meant to be a sock filtration replacement, right? So you're supposed to use this instead of a sock. Now, of course, I do everything backwards, and instead of using it as a sock first thing I did is I modded it to be a vacuum. Actually, as a sock replacement, it looks like it's going to be completely awesome. I haven't tested it yet, but I'm very confident in the design that it's going to be awesome. But what happened was Steve Rodder contacted me and asked me if I would be interested in testing the rodder tube. And I said I'd love to try it. And as we talked, we came up with the idea of potentially using this as a tank vac. So he sent me a couple different fittings than he normally sends out. Basically, he sent me a 1-inch slip fitting, and then I've got a 3/4 inch screw fitting here. I believe most of the time that's going to be a 1-inch screw. The rest of it's all PVC though. I love that because that means I can mod this thing as much as I want. I can pretty much do whatever I want with this thing. It's fully made out of PVC, which is really cool, right? The other thing is, this thing's never going to break. I could drop this on my tile floor. I can drop it on my concrete. It's not going to break. It's not going to crack over time. I've got no concerns about that. And it's really easy to use. As a sock replacement, looks like it's going to be cool, but I haven't modded my tank setup to do that. But what I did with it was I used it as a vacuum. And for full disclosure reasons, this was given to me by Steve Rodder, but nobody's paying me anything to do this. This is just me playing around having fun. So as a vac, it's working good, right? You can see I've got my 1/2-inch connector here, right? So I can run a hose on there. So hose barb, 1/2 inch. And then I've got a 1-inch piece of slip PVC on here. And then this just unscrews. Makes it really easy, right? So then what we're going to do is we're going to load up some media in it. And I haven't tried all the media possibilities out yet, but we're going to try a few things here. So the first thing I've done is I've got some of this stuff. I think I bought this at Petco. It's just a cheap filter material. I'm going to stuff that in the bottom, right? The idea is this stuff's going to trap the finer particulates. And then Steve provided me with this gray mesh. And this actually comes with your rodder tube. So we're going to drop these in. This will catch the heavy stuff, like the kind of cyanobacteria stuff that I'm about to suck up. Screw the top back on, and that's essentially it. This rodder tube's ready to use. Now, it's really cool because all I have to do to clean this thing out, pop this top off, dump this stuff out and rinse it out in the sink, put it back together, and I'm ready to use it again. So that's super cool. So this is kind of what came in the mail to me. Pretty cool. He gave me a couple other attachments so I can use it like the normal rodder tube. So here's the mod. It's this manifold right here, and it just slips on here. I have it slip Now it sucks a little air when I do this, but I have it slipped so it's easy to pull off and on, so I can easily clean it and have it use it, right? And all this is just slip fit together so I can adjust it in place, do whatever I need to, and if I get tired of it, I can disassemble it and use the parts for something else. I don't think that's actually going to happen because of how cool this is. But the way it works is it's going to suck water out of the aquarium through, or the sump through here. I've got a valve to control how much water is sucking through here. And then I got my main hookup for my sump on the right. And I just got a piece of slip fitting on there, so this whole thing just slips on whenever I want to use it. Takes 10 seconds to hook this thing up. It's pretty awesome. And then I've got a valve here so I can control how much water is actually sucking through the water tube. The key to this really working well is having two valves. So I can control how much water is sucking through here, right? So I can, which will affect how much water goes through the rotor tube, and I can adjust here so I can adjust how much water goes through the rotor tube. And it's all about balance, right? Because part of it, what's going to happen is while I'm sucking, water is going to go through there, and I don't want to just completely plug my pump. I want that pump to constantly have water circulating through it, or it's going to give my system all kinds of problems. So this really is the key, having the two valves on it. Not one valve, two valves. You got to have two valves for this to really work effectively. So let's take it downstairs. I'll put it in the sump and I'll show you how it works. So here's the setup, and sorry for the camera angle, it's the only way I could set this up so you can actually see what I was doing. So here's the setup. I've got this valve fully open, so all the water is pulling through here and going to my main return pump. And then I've got the valve for the rotor tube itself completely closed. Right now I want all my water coming through the main return. That's how I'm going to set this up. And then I've got my hose ran up to the frag tank where I'm actually going to be doing the work. So here's the setup. I haven't primed the rotor tube. I haven't done anything to it. All I'm going to do is open this valve here. And I'm going to get a little bit of a Venturi effect going through there, so I'm getting a little suction on the hose. Not enough to suck the air out of it yet, but that's okay. So then, to get the thing to start priming and getting the air out of it, I start dialing this valve back, which makes it suck water through the rotor tube. Now notice I'm not closing that completely, as I still want it to be able to suck water through there. And as you can see, air just went through there, and now we are completely sucking through the rotor tube and a little through the other end. So what I end up with is a nice vacuum. I'm trying to do this on the video so I can make sure you're seeing what I'm doing. But it will absolutely suck up all this crap. And this is the biggest problem I'm having with my display right now, is all of this algae. And I can come and I can scrub it, and all of this stuff that I'm sucking up right now is going to get sucked down into the rotor tube. Now this is really hard to do while I video it, so I'm going to stop and then edit the video so you can see how good. So after about a minute, here's that same little patch, and it's much improved. I'm just sitting here scrubbing it with the hose, and I can kind of do this indefinitely. And everybody say hi to Pinky. He's still in the frag tank. Anyways, yeah, I can just keep scrubbing at this. I'm not worried about the water being wasted because it just keeps recycling through. I've actually still got the rotor tube sucking. It's just sucking water out of the tank. It's no big deal. And I'm just going to sit here for a while and clean this tank. So I cleaned some in the frag tank, and then I sucked a bunch of cyano out of the sump. Part of my problem is this whole thing's a mess down here. The frag tanks are a mess, and I need to work on root cause as to why I'm getting so much algae built up in the frag tank. And I really think my issue is I need more water flow, and I need a better cleanup crew, which I basically have none of right now up there. And that's all to come. The other minor issue I have with it is when I dial back the flow for the rotor tube, it dials back the whole system flow, so then I start getting some unequal balances in my tank. Basically, it was sucking more water out of the frag tank, which actually I can kind of show you right now. A little low here,
and then the sump itself is a little high. This isn't a big deal. By the time I get the rotor tube cleaned out, everything's going to be ready to go there. But what I did was I sucked a bunch of crap out of the frag tank, just so you can see how much gunk this did. So, to clean this, it's really easy, right? I'm just going to disconnect my hose from here. I've got all of this on a slip fitting, so I can pull the whole thing off, and I can disconnect this here, right? Now I can run this upstairs and clean it out. So as they say, the proof is in the pudding, and granted, this didn't all come out of my frag tank. A lot of this came out of my sump, which is what I'm really interested in cleaning. But look at that mess. I mean, this is just the red cyanobacteria and everything else. Look at that. Look at everything that I was able to suck out of my tank that was able to capture. Look at this pile of nastiness right here. That is incredible. My rotor tube pulled all of this out with basically no work from me. Fantastic. So we're going to wash all of this down the sink, clean these sponges out. The great thing is, once I clean these sponges out, this thing's ready to go again. So one of the big reasons I sucked all that up is this is my refugium. And as you can see, it's just loaded with detritus. Last time I cleaned this out, I actually used a wet vac. And as bad as this is, to clean it all out again, I'm probably going to have to do that. But the reason all this is here is because I don't run socks. Never have. When I designed my system, I didn't have any good way to put it in. And now, with the rotor tube, I'm going to. So I'm going to end up modding this bit of plumbing so that I can run a rotor tube instead of a sock, so I don't get all of this detritus buildup over time. I'm probably looking at 2 or 3 years of detritus buildup. I'm really bad about cleaning my sump. I mean, it's just a refugium, right? Stuff builds up. It's supposed to be fine. And as far as the main display goes upstairs, it's fine. So I'm actually really impressed by the rotor tube, and I haven't even used it for what it's supposed to be used for yet. As a vacuum, this is something I've been wanting for a long time, and it's actually working really cool. Now, Steve's actually sending me another one to try the right way, so I can use it as a sock replacement. And I'm going to try a bunch of different stuff with it. I'm going to throw some carbon in it, I'm going to throw some GFO in it, see if I can't use this as a replacement for my carbon and GFO reactors, right? It's going to take no power, and I think it's actually going to be more effective because the total volume of your system can run through this, which is really cool. So I'm really excited to try that. I'm going to have to mod my plumbing a little bit, and you may have to as well, just depends on what your setup is. But for me, this thing's really cool. It looks like it's going to be really hackable, and you can kind of do lots of different stuff with it. So remember, Steve's not paying me anything to do this. He just sent me one to try it out, and Steve's just a hobbyist like we are. He puts his video out there because it's fun for him. He keeps a really cool reef tank. He's doing the same thing the rest of us watching these videos are. But if you're interested in one, he is selling them on his website, which is rotortube.com. And I'm going to have all the description below and everything. I'm just going to basically copy and paste off of Steve's YouTube stuff, or check out Steve's YouTube channel. It's RotorTube Reef. So YouTube channel RotorTube Reef. This guy's really cool. Lots of cool information out there, and I'm really excited by this rotor tube. So try it out. If you have tried one of these out, let me know what you think about it, because I'm thinking this thing is going to be really cool.